Hi, my name is Cathy and I'm a registered and licensed dietitian, and I'm also a certified diabetes educator. And today I'm going to talk about carbohydrate counting. Carbohydrate counting is a very effective way of controlling your blood sugars when you have diabetes. Carbohydrates are basically sugars that are found in a lot of the foods that you may be eating. And watching the carbohydrate content of your meals can effectively help control your blood sugars at these meal times. Foods that contain carbohydrates include starches like breads, cereals, pastas, rice, starchy vegetables like potatoes, corn, and peas. Carbohydrates are also found in fruits and dairy products, and also the sweets that you may be eating. And it's not that you have to give up all the carbohydrates that you're eating, but the goal is to eat about the same amount of carbohydrate at every meal, granted that you're eating 3 meals a day. A good amount of carbohydrate for an adult is probably somewhere between 60 and 75 grams of carbohydrate at a meal. Now this can vary depending on your activity and also your age. An easy way to start counting carbs is to read the food labels. When you look at a food label, it's really important that you look at the serving size, and I would also look how many servings is in that container. And then go down to where it says total carbohydrate, and the food label will tell you exactly how many grams of carbohydrate is in that one serving. So if you eat 2 servings, remember you've got to double the carbohydrates that you're counting. You want to make sure that you're not reading just sugars. You want to make sure that you're reading total carbohydrates. Another way to become familiar with some of the carbohydrate content of foods is to learn the basic value of those. So things like a slice of bread, or 3/4 cup of cereal, unsweetened cereal, a baked potato the size of a computer mouse, 1/3 of a cup of cooked pasta or rice. These portions, these starchy foods are worth about 15 grams of carbohydrate per serving. Your fruits, which would be like 1/2 cup of fruit juice, or a piece of fruit about the size of a tennis ball, like a peach or a pear or an apple or an orange, or a small banana, or a cup of melon or berries. These fruits and their respective portion sizes are roughly 15 grams of carbohydrate. And then your dairy products, which is about like a cup of low-fat or skim milk, or yogurt. Some yogurts run about 15 grams of carbohydrate as well. And then non-starchy vegetables, these would be like green beans and carrots and broccoli and cauliflower. 1/2 cup cooked vegetable, the non-starchy vegetables, are only 5 grams of carbohydrate. And a cup of raw vegetable like salad or raw carrots or celery is also 5 grams of carbohydrate. Remember your starchy vegetables like your corn and peas and potatoes and baked beans. 1/2 cup of them are 15 grams of carb. Those are your starchy vegetables. And then sweets and desserts, so like 1/2 cup of ice cream or frozen yogurt, or even a small 2-inch square unfrosted cake or brownie is about 15 grams of carb. So sweets aren't, you can still incorporate some sweets into your carbohydrate meal plan, just as long as you watch that portion size. As far as meat and cheese, there's no carbohydrate in these protein foods. This goes for meat, cheese, cottage cheese, tuna, peanut butter, and eggs. These foods do not contain carbohydrates, so you won't count them towards your carb count, but they can contain a lot of fat and cholesterol, so you still want to use them in moderation. And a good portion size for a piece of meat would be about a 3-ounce portion, which is about the size of a deck of cards. Fats like margarines and dressings and nuts and seeds, they don't contain any carbohydrate either, But once again, you still want to watch that portion size because they are high in calories. And a lot of times when people have diabetes, a small amount of weight loss makes a big difference in how their blood sugars range. Casseroles or chili, usually a cup portion, is roughly 30 grams of carbohydrate. And then I also want to talk about sugar-free foods. You need to read the label very carefully because a lot of sugar-free foods out there can still contain carbohydrate. So you'll have to check that food label to make sure that these foods do not contain more than 5 grams of carbohydrate. An easy way to manage your carbohydrates when you go out to eat is using what we call the plate method of meal planning. And basically this involves taking your plate, and you want to fill a quarter of your plate full of something starchy like potato or rice. A quarter of your plate could be some lean meat, but then half of your plate you would want to fill with some of these non-starchy vegetables, which would be like carrots and green beans. And then you could have a cup of milk or a dinner roll, and if you can get some fresh fruit where you're at, that would be great. And actually, this would add up to roughly about 60 grams of carbohydrate. So you really don't have to count these carbs specifically, but if you would plate this out just like this, you would be controlling the carbohydrate that you ate. So in summary, I hope that you find that carbohydrate counting is easy to do. I think that once you get into the swing of things, you'll find that it comes easier every day. But just make sure that you start reading your food labels and watching your food portions, and I think that you'll find that this is a very successful way in controlling your blood sugars.